I mean, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. That's where we start. And people who studied childhood trauma properly, like us, know that it's not a plane crash, it's not a car crash. Alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, Mark Howley.
The Mark Howley Show. How did you do it and why?
Hey, it's Mark, and I'm here with Robb Kelly. But I thought before I get started, I just wanted to give a summary of, what we're doing here on this show and why we're doing it. My inception here and the thought was that, people out there are stumbling around trying to figure out careers. They may have damages in their life. They may have anything. And I'm not a believer that it's all because they're young and they don't want to work. I think some of it's just they're flummoxed. They're confused. There's too much going on. So one of my goals here and primary incentives was to tell people that that's not the case, that to get from point A to point B to point C, sometimes that thing wiggles. And when you're young, don't worry about that. Get in, have some responsibility, and try and push towards goal number one, which, that was the primary concept in this show. And then having a guest like you, Robb Kelly, who is runs the Robb Kelly Recovery Center and has a pretty cool story and has a pretty cool insight into the way he sees people coming through addiction, trauma, whatever it may be. So with that, Robb, give us a little bit about you and just what you're doing there at the Recovery Center.
So, hi guys, my name is Dr. Robb Kelly. I'm from Manchester, England, in case you think I'm from East Texas. We do things differently here. And the reason we do things differently is we primarily do alcohol and drugs, but we do depression, anxiety, PTSD, is that it's interesting now that the treatment model in the US and the UK is broken. It's amazing with our neuroscience, when we're neuroscience experts, how we can manipulate the brain and repattern the brain. Therefore behavior. So we've been doing this for about 30 years. We're very discreet. We work with a lot of, almost every A-lister out there we work with, very confidential, but we use tools like a 9-dimensional tool. We use software like photomodulation. We use psychology. And we honestly believe that anybody, unless you've got severe brain damage, can change their life because they change their mind. And anybody can go from zero to a millionaire. It's not hard to do that, but it's the mindset, like you said. People have kind of given up right now, and not because of laziness, but because of there's no direction and no identity. That's what we see the problem. So we don't concentrate on the alcohol or the drugs or the depression because alcohol.
Let me interrupt you here for a minute. What's wrong with the existing system?
They concentrate on the alcohol. They take them away for 30 days. They don't train them anything. They just say, hey, don't drink. We're going to teach you relapse prevention. There's no work done. All we're doing is when you have a 6% success rate, like most treatment centers, we're just locking people away for 30 days.
When it's 6% success rate, that's what you see in rehabs?
That's what we're seeing. Yeah. Now, there are some great ones out there. Don't get me wrong, but we're sitting at 98% with over 10,000 patients over 25 years.
98% of recovery?
Yes.
How far out do you track them?
5 years.
5 years out. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good chunk of time. Somebody gets clean 5 years. They generally got their wheels under them. I mean, you would be inclined to think that's a, pretty high level of maintaining that lifestyle if you could push it through 5 years. But let's say this: a lot of the rehabs now, which I find interesting. Because I work with people in recovery. I've spoken at recovery centers that they're now doing this. After you go to rehab, you go to this thing called PHP, which, okay, so that's another thing. Then they want you to go into IOP and a halfway house. And all that seems to be covered by insurance. Like, I'm fascinated. It's just like on and on and on. So I think to myself, there's a little bit of a money-making game going on here. And once you can tie into the, once you can get our Medicare or our basic insurance policies to say, hey, we're on, well then being sarcastic or cynical, I'd say, well, ride that train. Can I get 30 days? Can I get 60 days? Can I get 90 days? And you say it's broken. Is it, what's broken about that system in your, you mentioned it once, but now we're extending it out to 60 or 90 days. Does that improve the recovery rates?
No, it doesn't. It's proven it doesn't. So you'll find out the IOPs and the halfway houses are all run by the same people. So it's a money making. If you can't change, so the chemicals in the brain reset in about 90 days. If you can't cure, because that's what we do, cure addiction, we offer a money back guarantee if you relapse again, unheard of, is you have to look at what's really going on. Alcoholism is not about alcohol. So the more places that can claim off insurance and they put you in a halfway house, it's just more money for those. You can't come in here without passing an assessment. You can't come in here unless you've been referred. We don't do that. I mean, any treatment center right now, we could call it right now. I have a patient here, come in, how much does it cost? Does he have insurance? Whoa. Before we ask that question, let's find out about the patient here. Let's find out what the situation is, where he's living, what's happening, what's his work life. No, let me just check his insurance. It's all wrong. I mean, I don't say I despise them. And again, there are a bunch that we work with that are great, but most of them are not healing the problem. I mean, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. That's where we start. And people who studied childhood trauma properly, like us, know that it's not a plane crash, it's not a car crash. Alcoholics are born and drug addicts are made.
I heard you say that. I listened to you on a couple podcasts. Yeah. You pound that home pretty hard. So yes. Go ahead. So let's say born made, there'd be a lot of, and let's say to some extent, I don't know that I agree with it. Having been in recovery, I don't know if I do. So convince me I'm wrong.
We've traced back alcoholic genes to fetus level. So we have a predisposition. We're born with a predisposition. We're allergic to the ethanol in alcohol, and 3 parts of the brain differ. The one mainly being the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus is our survival part of the brain. It tells us you have to eat food, you've got to drink water to survive. It also monitors temperature. At a certain point of the alcoholic's drinking career, because you can trace it back generations, the hypothalamus hijacks the brain. And it tells the brain to drink alcohol only to survive. That's why I could go days or weeks without food or water, because the hypothalamus has hijacked the brain. So my survival part of the brain is telling me to do that. That's why wives and children are it doesn't make no difference about them. And we get to a point where we cannot stop. And that's why it's a disease. We cannot stop because the hypothalamus is in charge now and we're done for. So you're born like that. Addiction is the addictive personality. Now, over 90% of people that come to us with heroin or cocaine addiction started in the doctor's office. I mean, that tells you a lot straight away.
I've gotten psychiatric help through my life, having been a long line of people who have struggled with that, and I finally gave it up. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I gave it up, and it's solved me. But it was fascinating when I was having a combination of anxiety and or depression, and I searched for a psychiatrist that would not give me benzos. I did not want Xanax. I didn't want Klonopin. I didn't want any of that bullshit because I knew I would abuse it. I just knew it. It took me months to find a guy who just said they're the scourge of people getting clean, and he would not give it to me. And there were times on like a Friday, I'd call him and I'd just be like, I'm just ripping. I don't know what to do. The weekend's going to destroy me. Everything. And he happened to be not in recovery, but he worked with recovering people for years. And he just said, sounds to me like you're going to have to do something, Mark. Pray, exercise, go to a meeting. It's going to be a tough weekend. That was it. Yeah. And that helped. I did not like the guy at the time. I was like, screw you, give me the shit. But he just wouldn't. He just wouldn't do it. And that was for me a huge, I don't know subconsciously why I picked that guy. There was something in me that just kept saying, because I heard you talk on one of your podcasts where like I went in to see a couple guys there like, yeah, you're bipolar and you have high anxiety. Take here, give you some lithium, and here's Xanax. adios. You know, and I'd be like, I don't even know what that shit is, other than I know I don't want to take a bunch of Xanax. And so I finally found one who made some sense, or I hope. Well, he seems to. I'm sitting here talking to you. But anyway, so talk on about medical and all that sort of stuff.
We get patients all the time coming in and, Dr. Robb, I've addiction problems, but I'm also depressed. Oh, well, of course you are, but you take depression medication. Oh, yeah, I do. How long have you been taking it? About 5 years now. When did you think it was going to kick in? Because it hasn't kicked in yet. So when we look at doctors throwing out all this medication, let's look at the medical dictionary in the USA. Depression, real simple, lack of serotonin. That's all it is. So why aren't we asking ourselves why my serotonin is low in the first place before I go and see the doctor and he writes me a prescription, which is just false serotonin. So now my serotonin depletes and depletes and depletes. Now I'm dependent for the rest of my life on the false serotonin. That's what's wrong. It's just false serotonin. You know, doctors don't know nothing about addiction. And guys, I've been in this game for 30 years. I'm a leading researcher and the go-to guy in addiction. I wrote for Harvard University, all that stuff I've done. So I kind of know what we're doing. We have to be very careful. The doctors are not always right. They don't know anything about addiction and alcoholism. There's no training in medical school for that. If you think for a second that you can cure drug addiction with a drug, what planet are you on? I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you know, if you're on a taper like Suboxone, great. We love it. More than 6 weeks, you're still taking drugs. You think the brain knows the difference between pharmaceutical drugs and street drugs? No, it doesn't.
Just
so
wants
can you imagine
drugs.
pharmaceutical companies getting together, go, we're losing trillions of dollars on the streets to heroin and stuff like, how do we get a piece of that street money? Somebody says, I'll tell you what, let's come up with something it'll be exactly the same as heroin. We'll call it Suboxone. Okay. And then we'll convince the world that by going on Suboxone, you're clean and doing great. And they sold it to the world, and the world bought it.
Well, I know a few guys have been on Suboxone for 10, 15 years. They just keep chewing it up. And I guess in my mind, a lot of times in that world, I'm like, well, I guess if you can lie your head down on your pillow at night and say, I guess I'm living a reasonably happy life. The fact of the matter is, I don't really care. I have compassion if you have a problem, but I guess you think in one way or another you figured it out. So what's wrong with the guy taking the Suboxone? Why can't he just roll on it and say, well, that's my life?
Your head's not going to be clear. You're never going to live the life you want to live. All the childhood trauma is still there. You keep taking it and taking it and taking it and never be anybody or do anything in your life, period.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to completely get clean, it's not about the drug. It's about how the mind works. So the mind sits inside the brain, hence the say mind over matter. So the mind is the guy here. You can never think clearly on Suboxone. Your thought patterns are distorted. Now, I've got nothing wrong with somebody being on Suboxone for 20 years. But if you want quality of life and you have been a heavy heroin addicted user, then, there's a way that you can solve all of that. And then once we do solve all of it, I'm not going to sit in a one-bedroom apartment doing nothing in my life. Now we go out and we train people to go out and start being in places we're not supposed to be, alcoholics and addicts from the projects, doing jobs that we're not supposed to do as an alcoholic. Build that empire from your bedroom instead of working the 9 to 5 you can't stand. And once the brain transforms and repatterns and the mind is connected with another energy, my DNA changes. Why is that important? Well, I'm not the same guy as I was before. So if you're taking Suboxone 10 years after, that's your choice, man. What I'm saying as a homeless alcoholic is there's a better way of life, man. Just don't be fooled that you're sober by taking that, like you're cured of something, because you're
You just
not.
shifted it.
You shifted it, man. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. All I'm saying is if you're going to recover from alcoholism, recover. There's no halfway measures there. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're either in or you're out. That's it. And then we change our shift for good, for the family, for business, or whatever we want to do to make us happy and other people happy and live that life that we're not supposed to live. I love saying that word because it's like, well, I'm not supposed to be here or I can't really do that. Says who? Well, you'll never be famous in America, Rob. Says who? Who's making these rules up? Because I don't like them with my new brain.
Yeah.
I don't like them at all. So I'm going to make my own rules up, and it worked out pretty good so far.
You know, I had a similar thing when I was a young guy. When I got clean, I got a job selling inside sales. And I knew in my mind, this is bullshit. But I also knew that the only way to get from A to B was to be good at inside sales. So I was like, well, that was my first jump. Over the course of years, I got to the point working for a big company where I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm never going to get to the big house. And the boss said to me, you know, what do you want to be? And I said, I want to be you. And that was, you know, kind of a little bit taken with like, whoa, you know, taken back. And I said, well, what do you mean, man? Let's face this. If you laid me off tonight, would you think about me for more than one exit on the highway? Even that long? My bet is you'd hop in that car by the time you're out the driveway. I'd be unemployed. You'd be thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight. And, you know, and he was kind of, so I quit. And even to this day, if you said to me, why did you do that? I felt, you know, why did I do it? I honestly, I thought something took over me and I had no choice. None. It was just this thing inside me that was just, I feel like it was a magnetic thing, just pulling me away. And I think I would put that into being, I think my upbringing, which was one of a high performing upbringing, which worked against me some. But also a sense of the only way to get from A to B is to bust your balls and to try and get there. So how do you institute? Okay, so some guy comes stumbling in to see you and he's a heroin addict, drunk, right? And he now gets, you know, let's say a year, maybe less. He's sober and he seems to have some of his shit together. And now how do you find out what he wants to do?
Oh, we do that during the program, during the 90 days. We often find jobs, start businesses, buy websites, get someone motivated in the right direction. Because it's not as if, you know, only 20% of the world can do this. 100% of the world can do it. And once we start to redevelop neural pathways and the distortion of the hypothalamus, basal ganglion, the amygdala, we see life differently. And we see that all that depression and I'm sorry for drinking and all that stuff has to be worked on. So again, childhood trauma is the gateway drug. It's all that trauma that we need to get rid of and carry. And as we transform into our new person, we find ourselves running businesses or being that senior manager that we're never supposed to be and having kids or getting my kids back. There's a whole world out there, but there's a bunch of myths around alcohol and addiction. That is just not true. I'm 64 now.
I'm 65. I got you by one.
You're a lot younger than me, though.
Yeah, that 64th year is a tough one. It's a tough one to get through.
It is. But you know something? I could go and retire 5 years ago. I have more money than anybody else I know. It's not about the money. I live a life that I should never live, living in houses I should never live. But the reason I'm going to do this to the day I die is you can bet half the people listening to this go, oh, no, he's wrong. No, my sponsor said, oh, no. Neuroscience, it's a new game. It's a new change of the brain.
You mentioned in one of your podcasts the concept of 4 mechanisms that operate. What I can't remember them, but you were saying 4 different things. Correct me if I'm wrong. That were different parts of what you need to create. I think you know what I'm saying. I believe you know what I'm saying. Don't you?
It's the 4 chemicals in the brain that needs to happen every single day for us to be happy. Them neurotransmitters need to be produced every day. So dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, okay? Now, 2 of them chemicals, neurochemicals, is the most important. Dopamine and serotonin. They're created in the stomach. They're not created here. Most people think they're all, no. Them 2 are created in the gut. So unless you're eating properly, you're not gonna have them neurotransmitters performing as they should. So we've tied bad diet in England. The food we eat is plastic. 90% we're not supposed to consume. 10% we can't methylate. That's a whole new problem. So all these diseases and illnesses come from that. And we find more people depressed now than any other time in the world. More people suffering from anxiety, depression than any other time in the world because of our food.
You think that's it?
So, yeah, the food industry gets us sick and the pharmaceutical companies keep us sick. If you think if you're a well guy eating really well with no illnesses, because if you do this, more raw foods, you won't have any. You're no use to the food industry or pharmaceutical companies. They have no use for you, and that's why there's no money in really getting people well, because nobody's interested. It's a lost cash. It's lost paycheck for them. You see how many times people repeat. If you have a treatment center, guys, and you're letting little Johnny back in your treatment center for the third time, paying 10 grand a month, shame on you.
10, 30.
Shame on you. Yeah, I know. Why don't you do what we did? If they relapse, give them the money back. Oh, we can't do that. No, because you're not teaching the right stuff. You're not, and you're not teaching what we teach.
So what do you teach?
We're teaching the neuroscience. We think you can get over it. We believe that attitudes can change, that you are good enough, that you can believe that you are a great father, that completely with the 9D therapy is subliminal messages going in from 9 directions.
So how do you find these things? I mean, sounds wonderful. It sounds a little bit like, smoke and mirrors. Well, how are you finding them?
Well, the 9D, it was not developed by us. It's developed by a company called 9D for Delta, who will be really, really famous in about a year's time. We're actually speaking to JFK right now through Gary Brecker about this 9D. So yeah, it was just something, because we're always researching, something that came to us as almost a non-start company going, hey, we've produced this software and we think, and we tried it out and tested it and trialed it, and it's mind-blowing. I beg anybody, we do it online, come online, okay, do the 9D for 20 minutes.
How do you get online?
Go to our website, robbkelly.com or breathbox.studio.
Okay.
Click on, register in. If you come off there after 20 minutes going, I don't feel anything, we'll give you your money back. Nobody has yet, but yeah. And then the photomodulation is, we know red light, medical red light therapy, the grade is we'll find out more about that, how the nutrients and the red light heals inside and outside. So we have the brain, it redirects from anything from Alzheimer's, which we're actually doing work on Alzheimer's and been shown a 13% increase in short-term memory with 5 patients. So we're onto something there as well. It's like anything you could ever imagine that somebody had in one place, like a crazy miracle place. This is it, and we won't stop researching, and we won't stop learning, and we won't stop convincing the world that, you can fully recover from this stuff.
So somebody like me says the smoke and mirrors thing, it sounds to me like you come back, for lack of a better term, you come back ready to fight that thing right away. You're saying, nah, I'm not taking it. I'm not buying in on that. Let me, because listen, I say it because I listen to you. You're not a man who's afraid to say what he thinks. If I got it right, I know I got it right. So I listened to a few things. You're not there going like, oh, hi, how you doing? My name's Robb. I saw you on. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's bringing to I'm going to enjoy talking to this guy, So you're coming at me. You're giving me body blows, and you got me in the corner, So now I guess the knockout punches, I'll give you your money back, but really the knockout punches to get me back on track.
Well,
and you're
correct.
saying these various things you're doing, which if you were to say, okay, what are they? Give me the rundown, of those things specifically that you're doing that would be what some might call non-conventional.
Oh, brilliant. I love that. Yeah. We do somatic experience. We concentrate on the body. We do neuro-linguistic programming.
You said somatic?
Somatic, yes.
Okay.
Somatic experience. It's been around for a long time, but we kind of forgot, that we don't have to worry about the body and stuff like that. So it's not been used. We brought it back in to use.
What does the word somatic mean?
Somatic means is kind of body, to listen to your body. So there's certain vibrations and certain frequencies that the body and brain react to. So it's like when you go to church, you get the praise back down, they're playing some songs and everyone's clapping. That's not for that. What the music's for, especially to do 2-chord music, is to get the vibration and energy and frequency on the level that you can listen to the pastor that delivers.
It's interesting you say that, because the other day when we were over in Scotland, we were just rolling around because there's more churches over there. You guys love old churches. I mean, good God. I'm like, every time, by the time I got to the end of them, I'm like, enough with the churches, enough with the damn castles. Okay. And if you don't mind, I don't want to look at another sheep. Let's move on. Everywhere I go, oh, look at this old church. Look at this old castle. I'm like, holy shit. Enough.
All outside.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's another sheep. Little tiny one, little big one. There he goes. Don't tell me he's on a hill and it's green. But anyway, so we did go into one, and there's these young girls that are doing their choir, and one's playing a violin. And I know that feeling, that energy. This one young lady, the way her voice hits certain notes, I couldn't leave. And I was waiting for her to hit that note, like in anticipation. And she would hit that note, and I would just say, it's just gorgeous. It just overtook me. So that's what you're talking about with somatic, I presume.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the body. And then the neuro-linguistic program is more subliminal work, like the 90, is we're planting, for easy layman term, we're planting different words and ideas in your brain. There's things around you that's happening. So here's a scenario. Each patient comes, he passes the assessment. Now we research the guy. What's he like? What's he into? Find out he's into the Dallas Cowboys. Brilliant. First time he comes into the car park outside, when he gets out, there'll be a Dallas Cowboy hat stuffed into the hedge.
Not in Philadelphia Eagles? Come on.
The second one was the Eagles.
That's to put him back into where he wasn't a problem. So you guys...
We'll put you in, and you can bet the Dallas Cowboys want to fall out.
Anyway, so go on. He comes out. He's got his Eagles thing. So his Dallas thing. So he's feeling, I presume, a little better when he gets in his car.
Yeah, so he comes out of his car, okay, there's a Dallas something in the corner in a hedge, but he doesn't see it. He comes to the door. One of the girls is wearing a Dallas Cowboys badge, okay? He comes into reception. On the screen, there's Dallas Cowboys games playing from the past. So when he actually gets into the office in front of me, all these guards are down. He trusts us. He's familiar because we're onto the same thing, and he's seen these subliminally as well. So the guards are down. The mind's ready to receive what we're about to tell him. So that's
interesting subject. This is kind of off the subject. Would AI can help you at all in that, like digging in somehow to who it is, the person, or is that absolutely absurd or outside of what you would think is ethical?
No, we use that.
Okay.
We definitely use that. Yeah, we love AI and the tools that it gives us is like we know everything. Now remember, we work with the government, we work with the FBI, so we have kind of tools that we can research somebody like really deeply. Okay. So by the time, again, we know everything about him and his family, where he lives, what car, what does he do for a living, how many times been divorced, what his bank account. We know all of that before he walks in. That's thanks to AI and the tools we have today. It's like, I got to be honest with you, and I hope you cut this out.
Go ahead,
I don't
please.
Give a shit what I have to do to get you well. I don't give a shit if I have to bug your car and get somebody to follow you around to snatch you off if you're going to a bar or you want to go missing and stuff like that. I picked a chief constable's son up, and because he ran, and I asked the chief constable, "Can I put him in my trunk?" And he said, "Yeah." And we stuck him in the trunk and we drove back to Dallas. It's like no matter what we have to do, my reputation's on the line. I'm sick of watching people die over this. And when my children came back into my life after 30 years, I promised God and universe or whatever you want to call it, that I'll spend the rest of my life making sure, because that's why we have such a high success rate. And, a lot of people go, "Oh, that can't be true." Try us.
You don't get your money back. You don't get your money. You get your money
Come
back.
in and don't pay anybody. I'll show you if you come into me and spend 45 minutes in my offices and you haven't changed in 45 minutes, go home and forget about us, because you won't. You just won't. We know everything about psychology and everything about behavioral science. I have 2 PhD, behavioral science and psychology.
Really?
So I can tell by body movements, thought patterns, everything in the assessment, whether we're going to guarantee, because here's the hard part, okay?
Wait, what do you see in me? How much of a disaster am I?
You?
Yeah.
You're a freaking hero. Are you kidding me? when Courtney Ramey says you never guess who I've got you on with, I'm like, holy shit.
Get out of here.
I'm telling you, man. Hey, listen, we pick and choose what podcast we go on, man.
Yeah.
And no, we admire you, man. It was awesome.
No,
And,
I mean, you know, the game is, you know, I think a lot of people don't realize this. You know, sometimes you just got to grind it. You know, sometimes, you know, all the wheels aren't turning the right direction and you want to get them back to right. But so that path is sometimes, look, when it hurts, it simply hurts. You know, and I tell people that this ain't a free ride, you know, and, you know, if you're not willing to grind it, and you got to grind it, I don't mean grind it in like horribly. I just mean get up and chop wood. And you know, and sometimes that feels like it ain't getting you anywhere, but it is. And you don't, I find with people that are coming into recovery through the traditional methods, one of the things I find frustrating is still trying to get them to buy onto the idea. Like, you can't do this shit. Like, have you, you know, there's a young fellow who I saw last night. I do a meeting, and thankfully it's just it's a small little thing, you know, so people can really talk. And this young man went on about how much he hates himself. Yeah. I mean, and I just let him go, you know, 10 minutes, maybe more time than he should have gotten, to the point of tears. Yeah. And I mean, I can't tell you how much my heart went out to him. It was just like, oh my God, what a shame. And I don't have the answer to how to fix that. You think you do?
100%. I'll bet everything I have, and money-wise, unless there's brain damage, I could cure that. I can fix him. Because it basically goes back to learned behavior and enmeshment. So let's look at a young girl growing up in the house, an alcoholic, dysfunctional house. She's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She watches dad come home 2 or 3 times a week, get into a fist fight with mom, black eye. Next morning they get up, like, I love you. I love you too. Sorry about last night. What's the girl learning? She's learning that violence equals love. Okay. So when she goes and goes out and goes to college, the first, second, third, 100th guy she's going to attract is the same guy with the same traits as father that will probably end up beating her to the certain extent that if she finds a good guy, she will self-sabotage that. So when we're being brought up and not validated as a child, we're not, you know, alcoholics and addicts hear things different because we're more sensitive. That's what people don't understand. Your life is distorted, man. And depression is the only way to go. People need validating and approval. So we come up with this saying that pissed a few people off, but ask me if I care.
Go, piss me off. I don't care. Please do. I like getting pissed.
Anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. Now, we got this for watching the monkeys and chimpanzees for a year. I hated my professor for that. But nurture whenever you can. First thing, we got to work. 100% both of you got to work. But when you spend your time with your kids, nurturing and caring and playing, rather than sticking them upstairs on the latest Game Boy or something for 6 hours, where it's not learning anything, and he'll probably going to be an addict with all that taken away for 6 hours. The end result is that broken guy or girl at the age of 20, 21, 22, no identity. That's the biggest thing with a human being, and lost in life. That equals serotonin. The worst thing you can do to a human being, and we tested this out in Hunt Prison in Texas. We were allowed to interview people on death row. 90% of people that got to the chair or the injection were insane. So we found out that isolation and taking the name off them and isolating them away makes you insane. Well, look at COVID. We took our identity off us.
Oh, you know, I coached these kids, and I coached these 7th grade kids and 8th grade kids, and I played men's lacrosse. So the young little kids, they had to wear these masks under their helmet. Not to mention, I couldn't even see them. You know, I'd be like, is that Joe? I think that's Joe's eyes. You know, and then Joe is sucking wind. I mean, Joe, he runs up and down the field twice, and now he feels like he's going to have an asthma attack. Nothing's wrong with Joe. And he gets to the sideline. I don't even know it's Joe. I'm like, who the fuck is this? You know, and I'm not allowed to take his mask down. I'm not allowed to take my mask down. So all this communication is gone. And I heard you were talking about, you think there's going to be a tsunami. I think you used the word of emotional problems coming down the line.
100%. We've not seen it yet because it'll take time. as the children grow. But you look at the stats around it. When liquor stores were essential businesses, we have a problem. When you look at the divorce rate went up by 13% in that short period. Depression went up by about 42%. These are the stats that we trust in San Antonio. So kids that were locked up and aware you can't go out on the streets, they play games, whatever they do, they're growing up distorted, man. And we're going to have two things we're going to have in our hand. We're going to have an epidemic of fentanyl, worse than you've ever seen it, and depressed kids who have no direction in their life. Because anything that you put in your body or are made to do, what it affects identity, it distorts the brain for future life. End of story. Conversation finished. And people don't realize that. You say, well, it's COVID. We had to do what we got to do. But what annoys you, especially in Britain, is all the Parliament guys were having parties and all that in the House of Commons with no mask, all drinking. And the average Joe on the street could not even go to his next door neighbor.
Yeah, I know. You see all that stuff with the politicians all running around, just running around. But you know what? Wasting our time on talking about politicians is a complete waste of time. I tell young guys when they say to me, oh, politics suck. And I say, they've been saying that since about 5,000 years ago. Can we find another one to complain about? And then the other one is large companies suck. I go, yeah. That's another one. I think when they were building the pyramids, they were saying the guy who's making me build the pyramids is an asshole because he owns all the bricks. So let's just calm down. Find me another problem. Like what? Not an intangible thing. What's the tangible thing that is wrong? Now I'm not a PhD. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy who's been clean for 40 years. So I can just look at it and go empirically. I can say. But I can't. I always tell somebody if they come to me and they get to a certain point, I'll say, you're outside my pay grade. Yes. You're outside my pay grade. You're getting into things about your dad, your mom. I'm like, dude, I don't want to be the one telling you what to do. Go talk to the bigs. And with you're heavily into this trauma-based stuff, if I understand it correctly. So tell us a little bit about trauma. Where do you see it, and inside and outside of addiction?
The problem with trauma is at the time we were kids, it was normalized. So I used to get dropped off at my mum and dad's friends, every Friday so they could go out drinking and pick me up Saturday morning, which was all fine and good for them. But what they didn't know, and I was too scared to tell them, is when the car pulled out the driveway, we played the run around naked game, where the adults got naked and we got naked and they ran around and they chased around the house and tickled us. That's not normal.
No. We don't like that. Sounds like a bad game. Exactly. That's a bad game.
I remember the priest molesting me. I went back home and told my mom, what she did? She took a wooden clog off her foot and she smacked me so hard on the backside and set me up. These are the times that we were brought up in. It's like, there's a lot of things around that is trauma, a lot of things that can cause you distress. And especially, and this will make sense to most people, especially if you're going to have the addicted brain or alcoholic brain, because we hear things different. Me and my brother stood on a kitchen table. We were probably about 9. My mom comes in, and this is exactly what she said to us. Will you guys get down off that table before your dad gets in? Get down, you idiots. My brother jumps down and I freeze. This is part of what we're talking about before. Because what I heard, get on off that table, you stupid idiot. That's what I heard. So then you have to trace that back and find what was the family trauma around that. And we had an uncle who used to come around when we were very young and scream and shout when mum and dad was there because his wife couldn't have children and he was against children. So it kind of processes through life, but it's kind of normalized. So what happens when we grow up, an easy indicator is if you can't keep a job, can't keep a girlfriend, can't be intimate with another person, you have childhood trauma. We went as far as to say that everybody suffers from childhood trauma, and we truly believe that, but it's distorted in so many ways that when you're, 30 and you're still going through this emotional barricade, it came exactly where you were 3 or 4 or 5. And you've carried it. It's learned behavior. It's enmeshment from our parents or caregivers that we took on into our life.
And sometimes, this issue is one that I have taken up with my psychologist and this sort of generational trauma. And so you speak of going back and finding your inner child. Now, in today's world, that will be, like, oh, I'm going to go find my inner child. And, but you believe it.
Oh, 100% believe it, It's been tried and tested so many times. Not us. I mean, we've done it ourselves. We've done our trauma work. We spent about $200,000 researching deep trauma. But yeah, it's the inner child that was never validated or approved. When you see that, I went through this. I was a bodybuilder about 25, 26. I was huge and everybody was scared of me. But inside, I was that crying little kid. And I couldn't relate to everybody being scared of me because I was still that kid that was suffering from. So the actions from that is I couldn't keep a girlfriend. I couldn't keep a job. I was shy. I didn't like to go out. Any criticism would strike me down. And the idea is we go back, we uncover, discover, and discard. Now, here's the kicker. All the trauma is in a subconscious brain, not the conscious brain. So we don't know it's there. So only by our traits and exaggerated traits and addiction, of course, is we find out. So by using the tools like brain spotting and stuff, we can bring memories from the subconscious brain out, and then we can clear that up, and then we move on to the next one, which layman's terms again, it frees you up to be a person as well that's capable of doing anything. Years ago, when I moved to America, I used to say to people, you could be anybody you want. And the biggest saying was, I can't be president of the United States. I'm not talking, let's forget political views, man. We had a business owner in the country with no political experience whatsoever. Don't dare tell me that you can't achieve your dreams. Somebody's put that there. It isn't true.
And you believe that's true with small businesses? You think that's true with anything?
Anything. You could smart. We had a guy that came to us that was, it was horrible. He was in a mess, but we got him working with us, and he was a great guy. And he lost everything and blah. And I said to him, what do you do for fun on a weekend? And he said, I'm not going to tell you, you'll laugh. I was, I'm going to laugh. That was silly. He said, I make socks. He said, I knit socks for Christmas and for my family and stuff. So we're setting up with a website business card. And we convinced him that he's going to become a huge business for all the tools we have. That guy owns the biggest sock company in the world. The one where you buy a pair and they give a pair away.
Yeah.
Million stories like this about people around you. Most people do the stage thing, the big speakers, they've been through my program. Most actors, musicians, they've been through my program. We're very discreet, but I 100% believe in that just because of the results. Now, if somebody comes to me tomorrow and go, hey, listen, I'll tell you what, blah, 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 because he said it, isn't that great? Do you believe in that? We go, no, we don't believe in that until we've trialed and tested. So between $500,000 and $750,000 we've spent on the research that I'm talking about now, with the confidence to say, we got it right. And it took me a long time to say that, don't get me wrong. We have it right. We have the solution. We're sick watching people die, and it's a quick deal. Like the first hour, you'll change. It's not what we know. If you're seeing a counselor for 3 years, if you're seeing a counselor for 4 months, I'm not too sure what you guys are talking about. Because the idea in life is to get rid of all that crap that we carried so we can move on, help others, and build our lives to the best of our ability. That's the key to life. And people always putting the brakes on the imagination, because at the end of the day, they'll never be blonde enough, tall enough, thin enough, or rich enough. And that's instilled from birth, from parents.
It's interesting you say that, because I'm not prepared to answer this yes. He said, I've had success with business. Thankfully I can do this show because I'm not strapped. And I do it for the very reason I said at the beginning. The inception is try and help people know that it's not an easy path. It wiggles and turns. Look at you. I read your book. I know the whole thing. For those who don't know, you dragged yourself through everything, it's just nasty shit. And we don't have time to go into it all. We'll just say, bad stuff, and you got out of it. Okay, so you got there. But I find, so this is what this guy said to me. Okay, here we go. So Mark, do you know you're there? And I'm like, So I said, we're sitting in front of this beautiful house. We got 4 miniature donkeys walking around. I don't know why the hell I got donkeys. My wife wants them. They shit all over the yard. They do nothing. There's no production out of them, right? I got 5 daughters that are wonderful. I got 4 dogs. I mean, all these by my wife, by the way. Well, no, the kids I participated in. But anyway, in the end, I thought, do I know I'm there? And I said to him, I don't think so. And he said, okay, I'll accept that. But I didn't want to say that. I wanted to say, yeah, I know I'm there. But there's something in me that feels like, no, there's another there. Yeah. And he said, what would it take for you to be able to just sit there and enjoy it? Now that is an existential, like, whoa. Blah, 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 blah. And I've been thinking about that since he said it to me, and like sitting there and being happy to be there.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty intense question. What do you think about that?
It's a great question. You know, here's what we found out. Parents died a few years ago. We went back, we're clearing out the house, me and a friend of mine. He finds a black and white photograph. And he shows it me, look at those. We was 19, 20, we're big bodybuilders in the day. Look how handsome we were. Look how amazing. Look how, God, we were so beautiful. And then he said, those were the days, Rob, weren't they? And I don't know why, but I said, well, we didn't know those were the days, or did we? So one of the things we do during our process with people is we have to find out who you are today. We have to kind of brag and be confident of who we are today. So take the money aside and everything. I have peace today.
You do personally?
I personally have peace, and I have one thing that most people never have in their life, and that is enough. I have enough today. So now I can focus on other people.
I think that's a deep question. I don't know that I can say that fully. I think that I'm a hell of a lot better than I was. I know that since I sold my business, I had to go through a whole enough thing, which was, who am I? What am I? You know, I always thought, oh, I'm not vain. I don't care. I'm just this guy. Yeah, I'm the CEO. I'm the owner. You know what I realized when I sold my business? I'm vain. You know, I wanted to be the hotshot, the spotlight guy. And I can say now that I am miles from there. But there's still kind of like this chaos junkie. You know, I exercise every day. You know, I got to get that endorphin. You know, I love it. I read intensively. I read history intensively. But there's still this little thing in me that's like, where's that buzz? Where's that buzz? And I've tried to just talk myself out of it. You don't need that buzz, Mark, but it still whispers in me. It still whispers. And I'm like, I got to silence that thing or let it be. Just let it be and say, okay, that's a little bit part of you. And well, let's just say this. What do you think about that rather than me rattling on?
Well, the thing we always have that little, but I don't, and there's millions of people don't, is they're made up by other people. Like we did a research on why people buy Mercedes, and it's not because they're a good car or anything like that. It's because they can piss the next door neighbors off because they have the badge on the front of the car. So I think the made up thing is, unless you've done all your work, you'll never be content. There will always be something missing. And with our minds, the addicted minds and the alcoholic minds, we're never good enough. You know,
we're I know that one.
There, yeah. And in hindsight, if you look around, you are there. I mean, the things that I found is coming from the projects is I made my first million, then 2, then 5, then 10, then 20, and it was never enough. I was always chasing. Today, we give 25% of that money away. You can imagine how much that is every single year to people. So it's doing the right thing, keeping your feet on the ground, but knowing who you are, knowing how good you are, knowing how kind you are, knowing how you're always trying to do great, like you, to other people. It's one of the reasons you do this is like, there comes a time, and this is part of the amygdala. There comes a time when you have to look around and be of 100% service. And when you can sit with yourself and have that feeling, it's like we're always chasing, living in the now. You know, it's very, very hard for some people. It was hard for me. You know, I remember buying a brand new Porsche 911, and on the way back from the dealer, I'm thinking, well, I wonder what the next one's like. He'd never had enough.
You know, I bought, it's interesting you said, I bought a Mercedes 10 years ago, and then somebody calls me and says, man, don't you feel good in that car? And I'm going down a hill and I'm like, I'm in a fucking car. You know, I said, yeah, I'm going to ride up to the guy at the red light and roll my window down and sneer at him because I feel better. You know, and actually I only had it for about a year because my daughters would say to me, I remember one of them says to me, Dad, can you drop me off at school maybe a half block away? And I'm like, why is that? And he goes, you just kind of look like, I don't know, you just look a little bit like a dick. And I'm like, what? I thought, so I got rid of I finally got rid of the car. I'm like, what am I doing here? You know, who am I convincing? It's still me stuck in a car. And, you know, so, but I will say one of the big things for me in life has been to not fall victim to, I don't want to respond to the you have to prove yourself thing. And I work on it. I work with other people, but I must admit it still trickles in there. And I just have to say to it, that's wrong. Just don't, that's a little bit programmed in there. And I just keep over the course of 40 years, just keep, you know, pushing it down and working on it and pushing it down. But these are deep in there. You know, let's say it's like Catholic guilt.
Yeah.
Oh, that one. I don't know if you were raised in the Catholic Church, but we were champions. Maybe any other churches, but we were champions at you were going to burn in hell 2 times over. And you know, they're hard things. And I guess you would say, if I'm understanding you correctly, that you think you could eradicate that.
Oh, I know I could eradicate. That's down to the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia is, and you'll get this. So if you want to the clock phase, so the basal ganglia is a repetition thing. If you want to drive a car or fly a plane, you need 10,000 hours in the air or 20 hours driving it, and it becomes a working part of the mind that comes away from the basal ganglia. What happens to people like us is 12 o'clock, we go on a bender, 10 after, we come back all humbly, 20 after, the wife lets us back in, half past, the kids are loving you again. At 22, you get that job offer you can't believe you've got, and at 10 to you smash everything down again. That's a distorted basal ganglia. And unless that's fixed, again, with the stuff we talk about, you will always have that feeling. But like with you, like it's got less and less and less. But some people that can't get over that, and they relapse and relapse and relapse because they have that guilt. Once it's implanted in the brain, embedded in the brain, because very hard, it starts becoming a habit and becomes a must. So to heal that is obviously takes a little longer, but if we can go back and heal that part, which we can, then life becomes amazing. And you're not carrying the guilt. The guilt and the shame is not ours to carry, but we want to carry it so much. We've got nothing to prove to anybody or anything, but we want to prove to people that I'm sober or I do this. It's like it's a human being thing. I think it's a default with most people. If you come from the projects, you want to prove to everybody that you're rich and you're wealthy and you're doing well for yourself. And why? Because your friends are there still living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, especially as you get older in life, you know, it's interesting. You don't talk about like maybe guys our age. You're not talking as much about, are you rich or are you rich? You're asking stuff like, you know, hey, how's your marriage? How are your kids? You know, are you content? Because it's really what we start caring about more as we get older. And when you see the ones who are my age, who are still trying to puff up and look good, in many regards, it's a little bit sad. You know, like, okay, dude, you're not the 28-year-old guy who's the weightlifter anymore. You're not going out and getting laid every night. You know, you're not. You know what? If you think you are, it's going to be a very big bummer when you go out to the single bar. You know, you are old. But let me do this, Rob. I think we're getting about the time to close up here. And I think the important thing right now is to make sure everybody knows who you are, the name of your facility, any way to get in touch with you. Just anyway, I'd like to give you the moment to run down that.
Sure. Well, we're based in San Antonio, but we have 5 offices around the world. We have San Antonio, Dallas, Manchester, England, London, Switzerland, Spain. If you're listening, not watching, I spell my name with 2 B's. So it's ROBBKELLY.com. Everything you need is on there. I have 4 businesses running right now, all very successful. So yeah, come on, say, we don't do this thing, guys, for patients. We're not, will you come and work? No. We don't want you to work with us. Go somewhere else. So we do this to save a life. So if we've saved a life today or made somebody think different, it's amazing. So when I give you a website, I'm not selling that stuff. And as a matter of fact, I've got a book called Daddy, Please Stop Drinking, which is the last thing
I read it.
Yeah, let's give 10 copies away right now. Mention the show or either of us, and we'll sign it and we'll pay everything. We'll pay the package and everything. It's just that, it's about saving lives today for me and you. And I think you can't have a bigger honor than that. We're on all social medias. Breathbox.studio is the 9D thing.
Breathbox.studio.
Yeah. We do 90% of our work by telehealth. So that's online. By the way, guys, we use Zoom, HIPAA compliant. And just come and have fun, guys. If you've got any questions, if you're serious, if you're a mom and dad who's problems with the son, we have an office mainly used for parents who don't know what to do. And you can call my ladies 24 hours a day and they will sit with it. They will never sell you anything. They will sit there and walk you through this shit to what to do to your loved one who's suffering. And if you go onto the website, there's a button there that comes to me. It comes direct to my phone. Come and chat with us, man. It's always best to text, obviously. I'm a busy guy, but yeah, man. I mean, we'd love to have you come and say hi.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. It's been great to meet you. And, and it's been great for you to meet me. Got to remember that. That's the best part of it.
That's the best part.
Hey, well, listen, thanks so much. And I do wish you have a great weekend.
Right. You too, man. You're amazing. You're a funny guy. I mean, you would get on well in real life.
Anyway, all right. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for listening to The Mark Howley Show. If you found this story as intriguing as we did, give us a like, share the episode, and subscribe at The Mark Howley Show. New episodes every other Friday. Adios.